Hey, so here I am. I am on the Brooklyn Bridge crossing from Manhattan to Brooklyn. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's also Gemini season. So what I would say, I'd like to start by saying happy birthday to Amber Khan. Okay, it's May 27th. Okay, so we just came out of Taurus season, which is talking about, you know, solidifying things, solidifying structures, and also understanding, you know, where the necessity is in our lives, or like what things do we need that are essential, right, to life. Gemini season sort of like takes that solidness, that solidification, and then it sort of breaks it up so that we can now practice like multiplicity, okay? Because Gemini is the third house. Number 3 is the first number that gives us the idea that multiplicity is possible. So Gemini sort of shows us, definitely shows us what's possible. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Esoterically, Mercury rules Aries, which is the first sign. If you think about tarot, the Magician is the first major arcana card, so there's 1. 1 and 3 are very related to each other because when you take one and the other, which is 2, and you bring them together, they can then multiply things, they can then create. So Gemini season sort of teaches us what we're able to create out of nothing, right? Just our awareness and how we are inspired to be ourselves, right? And also, you know, Gemini rules communication, language, writing, you know, verbalization of things, speaking, communicating. Gemini esoterically is ruled by Venus, which is the planet of creativity, beauty, pleasure, all of those things. Also, you know, material things and money. Venus really likes that. She likes to be comfortable. So, you know, that's a deeper meaning behind Gemini and Gemini, pretty much. Now, when we get into like that third house energy, it's kind of like it teaches us that we are all we need to be able to make things happen, right? You just have to have like the impetus, and you have to have the awareness, right? Because Gemini is very aware of things, just as much as like Aries would be. I'm on the Brooklyn Bridge, so like you're kind of seeing like all of the like ropes and the scaffolding and all of that stuff. I'm getting very close to it. But I feel like people think that I'm filming them, but I would rather not have anyone on this camera except for me right now. Anyway, yeah, so the thing is that clarity, mental clarity of the mind is very important when it comes to Gemini, because they can get a little bit too involved with a lot of things at the same time, right? It's kind of like they easily are bored and they need to be stimulated. So when you constantly need stimulation, you're sort of constantly trying to find that, right? What interests you, what can be done, what needs to be done here. And I feel like with a lot of Geminis also, they have a lot of things to express, right? That's why they are esoterically ruled by Venus. Venus has a lot of things to express. And when you get into different modes, methods of communication and how you express things, you know, it's talking about developing things from a point of start, right? Start to finish. Gemini is definitely a mutable sign, and it likes to engage, it likes to get things done, but then it also finishes out the season. Sorry, I'm in the bike lane. Yeah, but my North Node is in Gemini. I don't really have any other Gemini placements, but I'm a Libra, so, you know, I have enough air there. You know, being available to also receive things is something that's very important to Gemini, because it's kind of like you always want to be available to take those opportunities that happen, right? So that you can then create more, right? You can then multiply something, you can make more of it. Also, you know, the opposite sign to Gemini is Sagittarius, and that's sort of like long distance travel, you know, so that you can then learn about different cultures, and then it's kind of like your philosophy changes as well when you learn about different cultures, because then you learn different things that, you know, you wouldn't had you not taken the risk, right? So Gemini is language, but then Sagittarius is like learning the languages by going off to places and sort of like emerging or immersing yourself into it. I think that we can see people when they're riding a bike towards us. I don't think that people know, you know, keeping to the right is like the general rule. Anyway, also, you know, Gemini kind of rules behavior as well. How are you inspired to behave? It also rules children. So Gemini season kind of is like the kickoff to summer, even though it's spring. So it's kind of reminding us to stay, you know, lighthearted and do things that sort of like inspire us to be happy and to have fun and to get out there and make those connections, right? Because Taurus kind of like, you know, told us or teaches us to kind of like stay in one place, feel solid, be self-assured, you know, be reassured. But Gemini doesn't really need any of that because it can always create something from that you know, doesn't exist. That's why they're so good at writing, and they're so good at processing information. They usually read very well spoken, and they're very playful. So, you know, you'll hear them making jokes and things like that. It teaches us the importance of what it is to trust oneself and to constantly allow one to be inspired, right, by yourself. What you're able to do, what you're able to create, what you're able to bring into form as well. So let's talk about the sign, you know, like the actual visual sign of Gemini. It's like a Roman numeral 1, but sometimes that Roman numeral 1 looks like the Roman numeral 2 because they are the twins, right? So it's kind of like, what is the exchange? What's being understood? What information is being relayed? Are you able to grasp concepts, like that type of thing? So you have to be able to move quite quickly in that energy of Gemini because it's mutable. So it's, you know, adapting to things, adapting to certain changes that you might be experiencing, and it really does show you how strong you are, because 3 is a strong number and a tripod is strengthened, you know. It's not a 4, but it's a 3, and 3 sometimes is enough, right? Because the 3 is talking about receiving things, understanding what it is that you can offer, right? And not just relying on what it is that other people bring to you or make you aware of. It's kind of like your awareness in terms of like what has to be done or what you can do, you know. I feel like Gemini is a very confident sign because anything is possible, right? Their motto is as above, so below. So let's think about that Roman numeral, right? That Roman numeral 2. There's a line on the top, there's a line on the bottom. Sometimes those lines are curved, right? Concave, convex, whatever you want to think about it. But the lines that are in between is what is possible, right? Because you got heaven and you got earth. And between heaven and earth, you have us, right? Society, humanity, what happens in between. It's also, you know, when you think about what is possible and how you can make that possible, it's kind of like funneling that inspiration down to, you know, the physical earth and making it reality, right? So what are you making a reality for yourself now? What are you multiplying that you have built upon that you can rely on? How are you challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone? And how confident are you to believe that you can do anything over and over again, time and time again? What's being generated? Three is also a very magical number. Right? Very Trinity, right? Holy Trinity, all of that. Mind, body, and spirit, right? Mind, body, and spirit. I love it. So anyway, here we are. We got the bridge in the background. I've been wanting to give you guys kind of like this sort of street talk thing for a while. I've been thinking about coming to the Brooklyn Bridge and being inspired to be here. Bam. I don't know, maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. It was kind of distracting with all of these people around, you know, I'm very private usually. So my Pluto, my first house is kind of like, whoa, there's so many people. But I mean, you know, hello, I live in New York 20 years. So here we go. I hope you guys have a really good Gemini season. And that you are able to do a multitude of things. Meet a bunch of people, get yourself involved in things that you care about, and maybe getting yourself involved in things that other people care about that mean something to you.